AEW kicking off 2023 not only in a new city, they're up in the Pacific Northwest with Dynamite in Seattle and then Rampage and Battle of the Belts in Portland, but they're going to have a new look. And to tell us all about it, let's go to the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. He is not only the Chief Football Strategy Officer for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are trying to win the AFC South. He's not only a Vice President with Fulham FC in the Premier League, he is the President and CEO of All Elite Wrestling. He is Tony Khan. Follow him on Twitter at Tony Khan. Tony, Happy New Year. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, Stu. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for giving us some time. Before we get going with the wrestling, you told us during the Final Battle media call last month about your mother and the health scares that she had. Give us an update. How is your mom, and how's everything going with her?
Well, thank you for asking, Stu. I really appreciate it. She's doing much, much better. She is really having an amazing recovery from what was a really challenging surgery and pretty scary couple months, but it was a really nice Christmas at my house, and my mom's doing great. Thank you for asking.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Continue wishes for her recovery and her improvement as we go along. Let's talk about this new look. We've seen the teases during the commercial breaks and stuff on Dynamite Rampage the last week or so. What was the inspiration for going with the new look that we're going to see this week on Dynamite and Rampage?
Well, I think it's a sports-based presentation, and that's what we always go for. It's a great pro wrestling show every Wednesday on TBS and every Friday on TNT, and we wanted to change the set to reflect a new era, and I think it's going to be a great look for the show. It's a great set, and it's still going to be the same great wrestling, but it's going to be new matches and new stories and a lot to look forward to this week on Wednesday Night Dynamite on TBS coming up just hours from now.
Absolutely, yeah. The card looks fantastic. So one of the new hires for AEW, Michael Mansouri, who spent 11 years with WWE as a in global TV production and such. Now he is a senior vice president and executive producer for AEW. Just talk about the impact that you look to see with him on your staff.
Well, Mike has great experience in TV production around the world, not only in WWE, also in mixed martial arts. So he knows pro wrestling and sports production really well. He is up with all the state-of-the-art technologies. He has great ideas about show flow as far as the live events and the live presentation. So I think Mike's going to be a really, really valuable addition to the team for many years to come. And it's great having Mike Mansouri in AEW now.
Absolutely, absolutely. We just talked about the new look. Is that look going to carry over to pay-per-views? You got Revolution coming up in March in San Francisco. Will we see anything like that on the pay-per-views?
Yeah, I think we may, but the Revolution traditionally has its own color scheme. For people familiar with the Revolution pay-per-view, traditionally we've had that kind of green futuristic look. I think that will actually flow really well with the set and design we have now, and it's set up for those kinds of color changes. But I think with that grid matrix that we have now, is very consistent. It's probably actually more similar to Revolution than anything else we have.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. AEW, creating stars left and right, and one of the guys that his star has been rising, ever so much, and especially in the last couple months, Ricky Starks. Now, we're in Austin. We know Ricky Starks so well. I called many of his matches on the independent scene, particularly with Inspire After Death here in Austin. So we know what kind of athlete Ricky Starks can be in the ring. But talk for a second about his rise. He had the title match with MJF and came within a hair of winning the world title. Just talk for a second about Ricky and his growth in AEW.
Oh man, well, Ricky Starks has come so far in just a few years with AEW as the company's grown. I think Ricky Starks has come a really long way since he debuted, and he's become a very popular wrestler. He was a real rule breaker when he first arrived in AEW, but the fans have really taken to Ricky Starks. He's so charismatic. He's such a great wrestler, and the fans really like him. And I think Ricky Starks has a great future in AEW. And what a great match it was just a few weeks ago at Winter is Coming when he challenged MJF for the World Championship. And I expect a lot of bright things to come for Ricky Starks. And just hours from now, what a huge match he has. Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks to kick off this new era of AEW on TBS on Wednesday Night Dynamite coming up very soon.
Yeah, that is going to be a fun match with him and Jericho, and should be just a great exhibition of wrestling and two stars. One that is, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. His legend is already known, and now Ricky building on his legend. You just mentioned MJF, who's been the world champion since Full Gear. Tell me some of the challenges, shall we say, of having Maxwell Jacob Friedman as the world champion.
Well, there are challenges on screen and off screen when you're talking about Maxwell Jacob Friedman, the AEW world champion. He is certainly a very demanding person in the ring and outside of the ring. But he's somebody who has his own connection with the audience. I think people love to hate MJF all over the world. And he's a great wrestler. People, focus on his talking, and he definitely does have a really big mouth. But he's also one of the most skilled pro wrestlers and a student of pro wrestling and pro wrestling history, which is what makes him so dangerous in AEW.
Yeah, somebody else that I've had to deal with on the independent scene. He's got his own way. I'll give him that. Someone else that works with AEW in AEW recently announced 2023. It's his last year in the ring. Talking about the Natural, Dustin Rhodes, someone that he's one of my dearest friends. I'm so proud to be the lead commentator for his Rhodes Wrestling Academy showcases. Just talk for a second about what Dustin has meant to not only the in-ring product of AEW, but behind the scenes with the coaching that he does.
Dustin Rhodes is one of the best pro wrestlers of my lifetime. I've been looking up to Dustin Rhodes since I first started watching pro wrestling. He's one of the first wrestlers I ever saw. And throughout his career, he's maintained a really high standard of excellence. Physical fitness right now is at a premium. I think Dustin, these last 10 years, is in much better shape than he was for the decade prior to that, which is unusual. And his staying power, his longevity is also really unusual. To have somebody doing some of their best wrestling at this advanced age, it's unusual. I think Dustin could continue on for many, many years and wrestle at a very high standard for a long time to come. I respect the hell out of Dustin Rhodes. I'm sure, I can tell you also respect the hell out of him, Stu. He's just a tremendous, tremendous wrestler. And I think he's somebody that really, really, for AEW, since the very beginning, has been very important on screen and off screen.
Absolutely. And yeah, love him, respect him. He's such a good man. The women's division, you got Jamie Hayter as the AEW Women's World Champion. You got Jade Cargill, still the TBS champion. But we got all sorts of comers. Soraya is making her play now. Just talk for a second about how this women's division has gotten so good over the last 6 months, year or more in AEW.
Well, I think it's been building up for a long time. There's been a lot of exciting things. As we ended 2021, there were a lot of exciting things happening in the women's division. And a year later, as we wrapped up 2022, I think, it's only gotten better. There are a lot of great stars. We've added big free agents. You mentioned Soraya. Toni Storm has come in and is one of the most important people in the women's division. She got injured in her title match with Jamie Hayter, so we haven't seen Toni Storm wrestle since Full Gear, but she's one of the top stars. And then we have our own homegrown stars, the world champion Jamie Hayter and her best friend, the former world champion, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Hikaru Shida, another former world champion. There's many other great stars featured on AEW TV week to week, whether it's a big free agent who's come in like Ruby Soho, or right now she's been teaming with another homegrown talent, Willow Nightingale, and they're taking on Ty Conti and Anna Jay. So a lot of exciting things happening in the women's division. And of course, nobody more dominant than Jade Cargill, the undefeated TBS champion, who's had a hell of a year herself and is approaching 1 year as the TBS champion. So I think there's a ton to be excited about in the women's division, and I'm looking forward to even more exciting stuff in 2023.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned Willow Nightingale. I tell you what, every time she comes on the screen, you just have to smile just because of her positive outlook, the way she presents herself. Just a fantastic wrestler. As I mentioned, you're in the Pacific Northwest this week with Dynamite in Seattle and Rampage and Battle of the Belts in Portland. Is there a market that you haven't been to yet that you're really like this that's top of your list of the next one AEW is gonna be in?
Well, there's a bunch of great markets coming up, in particular that we've never been to that we're doing AEW shows in the coming months. Portland later this week, of course, Seattle this week on Wednesday Night Dynamite, hours away. But then Friday, we're also doing live Rampage Friday night on TNT, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central there in Texas. And following Rampage, we'll have a live Battle of the Belts. We've already announced Orange Cassidy is defending the All-Atlantic title against Kip Sabian, which is a match that's really been building for a long time. And we'll have more exciting stuff coming for Portland. And then in the weeks to come, seeing a lot of other markets we've never been to. Never been to Fresno, California before. That'll be neat. And of course, Revolution, we're making our debut for one of our biggest events in Northern California with a big event in San Francisco. And a lot of other markets between now and then I've never been to for AEW either. Laredo, Texas should be very cool. So right there in your backyard, and some other fun stuff. So a lot of great markets coming, and there's still more places all over America and all over the world where they watch AEW, where we can still come. It's amazing. We've only been around for a few years and still traveling the world, seeing places for the first time.
Yeah, it's awesome. You got Laredo, El Paso coming up soon, and yeah, like you said, globally got the show in the UK coming up. So AEW taking over the world, as we say. Catch AEW Dynamite Wednesday nights 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on TBS. Rampage Friday nights 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on TNT. Don't forget Dark Elevation Mondays, Dark on Tuesdays. Both those can be found on AEW's YouTube channel. He is Tony Khan, the president and CEO of All Elite Wrestling. Follow him on Twitter at Tony Khan. Tony, I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for your time. All the best to you, and looking forward to talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Stu.